Am I the only one who struggled so much to make a choice between the Pro and the Pro Max? I have the iPhone 12 Pro and the iPhone 13 Pro Max, and the iteration of one being 12 and the other one being 13 does not matter. From 11 and up, the size discrepancy seems to be kind of the same between the Pro and the Pro Max. This video will focus on my commentary on the overall design and how both phones handles everyday tasks differently. But my main commentary will be on the size and my thoughts behind it at the moment. The design. The first time I saw the iPhone 12 Pro in Pacific Blue, I could not believe how beautiful it was. And I think I bought it mainly because of the color. It's elegant, strong, and mysterious without being tacky. The Sierra Blue is still a well-balanced color, classy and youthful, but I still think the Pacific Blue will go down as an all-time classic. The difference in design is not that different. It's fairly similar. I think you would be happy with both in terms of design. In terms of everyday use, I think both phones handles everyday tasks fairly well. There will be a difference in speed, but it will be negligible in terms of everyday use. If it had been the iPhone 13 Pro and the iPhone 13 Pro Max, in terms of processing speed, it would have been the same. For my use case though, which are basically just emails and the usual numbless scrolling on different social media apps, YouTube, and maybe an occasional movie on Netflix, I think for my use case, any iPhone above the 11 would have been more than adequate. In terms of the cameras, they're both capable of shooting ProRAW and 4K video. There should be some differences in quality, but they both perform great. Usually, there's not that many differences between the Pro and the Pro Max in terms of camera, but I think the 15, there is some slight differences between the Pro and the Pro Max. The iPhone 12 Pro weighs 190 grams and the iPhone 13 Pro Max weighs 240 grams, so about 50 grams in difference between the Pro and the Max version. Essentially about 25% more heavy. Those additional 50 grams are felt. Even though you might get used to it, the Pro feels more natural in the hand than the Max does, and it hits a certain phone sweet spot, if you can call it that. I think my hands might be slightly bigger than the average, and for me the Pro is a one-hander, as the Pro Max is definitely a two-hander. In order for you to reach the corners, you need to use the other hand to do that. This can make the phone seem more like a micro tablet than an actual phone. I will say you do get used to the Max, but when you go back to the Pro, it just feels a little bit smaller, but it also feels a little bit more natural. There is a psychological aspect and experience of using either the smaller or larger phone, and that can depend on who you are as a person. I use my phone for pretty much everything, but I like to see it more as a productive tool, like using it for apps like Notion and for checking your emails or texting somebody. I think being productive can at times become stressful, and whenever you write something on your phone or want to learn something off of YouTube and I get stressed, I tend to get triggered into getting a dopamine hit by scrolling for short-term gratifications like shorts or scrolling on Instagram. But I think a bigger screen can for some reason offset that, at least for me. Hear me out, sometimes having a surplus of something makes things less stressful, at least for me. So having a bigger screen real estate helps me to be less stressful, meaning I would search for dopamine hits less, in return being more productive. This is my take on it at the moment, which can change with time. The opposite can hold true as well, depending on who you are as a person and where you are in your life at this very moment. One more major thing I want to mention is the battery difference between the Pro and the Pro Max. I have seen plenty of videos, and one of the major things all of them mentioned is the battery life. But I never thought too much of it, because how big of a difference could it actually be? But I can confidently say one of the best features of the Pro Max is the battery life, and one of the major factors why I went with that phone instead of the normal Pro. Before I would worry about the battery life when it was under 30%. Now I don't worry at all because I know it's gonna hold through for another hour or two. Even though the Max is big, and it might seem a bit comical at times to walk around with a brick like that, I have grown to be very fond of the larger screen. Even though I still feel that the Pro is the sweet spot in terms of size, but whenever I switch back to it, it feels different and I feel a bit more home with the Max. That's at least what I feel at the moment. If somebody wants to dwell into an iPhone and are not sure where to start, I think a used iPhone 11 is of tremendous value. Let me know in the comments how your experiences has been by either using the 13 Pro Max or going from the Pro to the Pro Max. I appreciate you all. Thank you.